Test it all out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's rock and a roll.
All right, welcome to Two Sides to a Story podcast. Started by moi and Derek Travis, and the goal is have different conversations with different people to bring out different sides of the story, or sides, whether it's sides to yourself, things of life, but in general, the goal is to think about things we wouldn't think about otherwise. I'm joined by my brother Marshall. He is here because I noticed when I talked to him, I have more.
Because I'm his brother.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
But I did notice when I talk to you, I have slightly more masculine coded conversations, which is kind of a weird way to say it, but that's how I thought.
Younger brother, by the way.
Younger brother.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also full blood, same parents.
Mm-hmm.
No half, nothing. Crazy, right?
Yeah, and my goal, is at least to have 2 conversations a week, maybe one with a more masculine energy type of personality, maybe somebody with a more feminine personality. Initially, my goal
I
is...
am the feminine one, so you just wait until the masculine one comes around. It's gonna blow your mind.
You can tell by how good he is at blending his blush or whatever. I don't even know the words for makeup, but I was trying to make a makeup joke. I don't even know.
Like blending the foundation and stuff.
Yeah. So you're here today.
Yes, I'm just along for the ride.
Yes. The other guest I would ideally have on once a week is my sister. Just because...
Daniela?
Yes. Because both my brother and sister they're basically cut from the same cloth, but they were... as soon as they were cut, they were then completely designed for different purposes. That makes sense. like you guys are baseline very similar versus me and Matthew.
I mean, she does have a vagina. So,
yes.
And
that's the thing. Having a vagina is what makes you a woman, right?
That's not. Anyways, no.
I figured let's get fired from SNL before we even. Get
I can't really talk about what is a woman or whatever.
Yeah, I mean that's partly what we're going to be exploring over the course of this podcast, ideally.
Yeah, I guess so. I'll be interested to know what the viewers. Is that what you call it?
Yeah,
audience. The audience. Yeah.
Hold on a second. Could you grab Jake?
If he gets up here, I'll probably start sneezing and stuff.
Yeah, Marshall's not a cat fan, and Jake's a curious kitty.
My biology doesn't like cats. Neither does my psychology.
And also, I figure he's probably gonna try and jump in our laps a bunch and ruin shots and stuff. So it'd be better if he was out there.
Sorry, audience, if you like cats, but if Derek's cat jumps on my lap, which he's very friendly, like to do, I'll probably start sneezing, and then it just won't be a pretty sight. But what I was saying, I'd be interested to know, Danny is, of course, a female, by biological standards.
Born female. That's the official.
Yes,
word.
but she also has a very strong, demanding presence, very down with the patriarchy type. Daddy issues, but whatever. Anyways,
there's an interesting background behind that.
She definitely has a strong masculinity about her personality, but she'll be the feminine voice for this show.
Yeah,
I suppose.
And I feel like me as a man, I am obviously a man, but more feminine than most men would be. I think. I
don't know about most men. Maybe more feminine than the stereotypical.
Most men I grew up around. Most men that I envision when I think of a man.
Which, for context for the audience here, we grew up in a town called Ellensburg, Washington. Feel free to Google it. It's if you Google Ellensburg, Washington, probably get 2 things: Central Washington University and Ellensburg Rodeo. 20 years ago, when we were kids here, the university was a lot less of the cultural presence, and the rodeo culture was a lot more of the presence here. So the men that Derek would be referring to, that he grew up with,
cowboys.
Very, very much cowboy. Flatbed trailer, cows, cowboy hats, boots, and things of that nature.
Boots with the fur.
I can't even say stereotypically.
That's
I can't even say stereotypically, but like in past times, that would be the stereotypical man. So Anyways,
the idea of what is man or what is masculine has definitely evolved over time.
yeah.
I think that's part of. I think what I view you as masculine, and the masculine I see about you is like the A-type personality masculinity, the get shit
A-type?
done. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I say A-type because because I was describing the difference between you and David.
David who?
David Bright.
That would be our brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Like,
Yeah, because I was
I feel
describing.
like David is more feminine than his wife.
Yes, but that's the that's the B type. And also I was making an analogy with Danny the other day, and this is what then led to me thinking this is a good conversation. I should make this podcast one with you, one with Marshall, because I was talking to him and I was like, I was comparing him to Dad.
Who? David?
Yeah. And I was like,
Were you comparing him to Dad with Danny on the phone?
yes.
Interesting.
And it was because
I bet that got her fired up.
she started it. She was the one who initiated the conversation, actually, or initiated the analogy. Because she was talking about.
Is she wanting to get a divorce?
No.
Little backstory: she thinks our dad is a monster.
I'm inclined to agree, but I reserve judgment. However, the point was, she was talking about how Mom viewed David very negatively coming in, and she viewed him similarly as, no, Danny, you don't want to get locked down to this person because I've already been locked down to a guy who won't hold a job and whatnot, and it can get so terrible and blah blah blah. Hold on, let me finish the thought.
I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm listening.
So she was saying that, and then Danny was all like, oh, blah blah blah, no, it's good and all this jazz. And I basically, the reason I'm saying this is because my comparison and my describer of, honestly, I was using David, Dad, and myself all in the same bucket in terms, and the word I was using, and it's not the word to use, but I was saying underachieving males. And I was like, there's different types of underachieving males, and the correct word would be B-type personality, because that's less insulting than you're an underachieving male. But I was like, my father seems like the underachieving male who, I know I can't do this myself, so I need a woman in my life to do this for me, and I'm going to manipulate her and control her to make sure she can't leave and does what I need her to do. Versus a David or a me, which I see that more as the underachieving male archetype of the support class, in terms of, I can't do this on my own because I'm maybe not business oriented or very good at making sure to stay inside the guidelines to keep jobs and stuff. So I'm going to therefore support my wife, my girl in my life who wants to get this degree, who wants to go into medicine, who wants to either start a business or something. And that's why I said you as A-type and then me as B-type, because I didn't want to say underachieving male. Because that
I'm
sounds
a strong,
pathetic.
independent man. I don't need no woman.
Exactly. But and that's kind of what it is. And in my mind, the nice simple way of the neutral way of saying it would be A-type personality, B-type personality. And I see you as very A-type and me as more B-type.
Okay, that's not it's different than what I've typically understood, like type A, type B, to be or not to be, or to A. Well, for one, audience, we're gonna do our very best to not make this just a family drama history recount.
It might become that, considering it's with my brother and with my sister.
Yeah, well, we all speak from our own experiences. Mm-hmm. What I was rolling my eyes at was that some people and
camera's right there.
Yeah, some people, our mom included, from times I've seen, when they have any type of issue with anyone, they do a recall, which is, comedians do that, but it's tactful, not just like the default setting of always like, oh, don't do this because I see this negative sign, and I've already been there because I had this experience. Whatever, she married our dad, had in the negative experiences that she the experiences she perceived as negative, trying to be as neutral as possible, not to say they're negative or positive, but she perceived as negative. And so because I had that experience, I can tell you that this is just like that. And our grandpa did the same thing. I can't tell you how many times as like a teenager, which is just a silly thing to do to a teenage boy who has virtually no interaction with his own biological father anyways, saying like, oh, don't do that, it's just like your dad, because your dad used to do that. And I'm like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with that, Grandpa? Like, I don't even know who my dad is, so how can you say I'm being just like my dad? And, like, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Is it generally bad? Like, what about it? You're telling me don't be like your dad, but that's not helpful. It's not helpful at all. So it's a little arbitrary, which... Gosh, there's so many things. We could talk for episode after episode about masculinity and femininity.
That's the goal. That's the entire goal of the podcast.
Masculinity and femininity. Because if I'm supposed to be the A-type archetypal masculine figure in this thing, it's not going to be...
Definitely not what I was going for.
It's not going to be this... Maybe like the stereotypical... A-type is going to be a little more misogynistic. I have certainly no complex of like male superiority. Look if you see on the camera, I have this balance. Balance. I think everything from the subatomic to the cosmic in this like state of existence and all the matter, physical and metaphysical, that is in existence, operates in a balance of order and chaos, which is in our own way that we perceive the universe as human beings, is masculinity and femininity. And femininity is portrayed as chaos and masculinity portrayed as order. And don't misconstrue that as though chaos might be a bad thing and order might be a good thing, because they both just are, neither good or bad, and alone are positive and negative. And then when balanced properly are both positive, meaning that order is the things that you can count on that meet your needs. Whatever. The sun rises in the morning, it sets at night, you go to work, you get a paycheck, you go to the store and you know that what you need is going to be there. Whatever. That you know, like you turn on your car, or you go to your car and you trust that it's going to turn on. All these things. You go to
not my car.
You go to a mechanic. You go to a mechanic and they can fix your problems, or whatever. You go to a doctor and you can fix your problems. But then order, unmitigated, in throughout history and whatever societal level, like basically turns to a very stale, dry, totalitarian existence. With no variety whatsoever. So it's more or less the things that keep you alive, and then chaos is all the things that you can't predict, that basically make life worth living. It's like art and emotion and new conversations, and it's like sexual interaction that you don't know exactly what's going to happen, and adventure and blah blah blah. And it's so order is like basically what keeps you alive, and chaos is what makes life worth living. But chaos unmitigated is like absolute anarchy.
It could be total chaos. It could be total chaos.
I don't know why I can't remember where that's from right now. It sounds so
Bible Man.
Oh,
yeah, when they're making their jokes.
Yeah. So, human existence to its optimal degree is a proper balance of that chaos and order. Yep. And that's the period where you pick up whatever you're gonna go. Your turn, Derek.
Okay, so I ran some stuff down as you were talking. One thing I thought was really interesting when you mentioned chaos and order and said like, not necessarily implying bad things about it. That's something I go with a lot because I'm technically chemically autistic, and because of that, I realize I very much mean exactly what I say and almost nothing more. And so a lot of times I'll say something, and somebody like, oh, that's really sad, or that's really weird, or whatever. I'm like, oh, I didn't mean it sad. I meant it as, like, just a fact of the matter and whatnot. And, like, if you are to say chaos and order, it does in that way sound like chaos is bad, order is good. But another way of saying it is, like, creative/rigid. Or in that case, the creative is the more positive one in the bunch. Whereas in reality... And that's what I'm kind of trying to get at.
Sponsor us.
Ideally, I wasn't going to face the logo towards the camera, but all's well. The point of this was, so, like, if you are to say chaos, order, you are to say masculine, feminine, everyone's going to come with their own biases. Like, if we were to say this podcast is to compare masculine energy versus feminine energy, you're going to get some people who think one is better than the other, and or maybe negative connotations by one or the other. And the point of this is there's two sides to every story. So we're here to tell both sides of everything, whereas both the negative and the positive of just about anything possible. And the overarching umbrella is masculine energy versus feminine energy, which could be A-type, B-type, which could be simplifying for the sake of making a decision or overcomplicating for the sake of finding the truth, or whatever.
Under my umbrella, Ella, Ella, A.
And also, what's another thing you said, a flaw that you could say people do is comparing people based on people they met before, which is definitely, you could say, a flaw, because just because one person seems like this and seems like other people you've known like that, they could be totally different, so you kind of want to get to know them more. Once again, two sides to the story. There's more to it than you actually think. You could see somebody on the street, like, fully tatted head to toe with piercings and stuff, and you've met other people like that who have been, I don't know, druggies or stealing from you, whatever. You look at that person like, oh, fuckhead. They could be... Actually, great example. Just the other day, I was very stressed out and trying to get something done. I accidentally left my card and all the money I was trying to deposit in the ATM without actually depositing it. And I ran back like, oh my god, what's going on? The dude who saved me and pulled it out had like a full tattoo all the way up through his neck and everything. Whereas if I had seen that guy originally and judged him, I would have been like, oh, maybe that's a dangerous person. But in reality, he was a family man who was actually looking out for my best interest. He's a family man who's looking out for the best interests of complete and total strangers, which is not something you can say about most people. So, yeah, I mean, don't judge a book by its cover. That's part of it, too. But in terms of this podcast, my thought is, like, maybe if you'd seen this gentleman before, you wouldn't have thought, oh, he's somebody who would actually think, hey, you can't just judge somebody based on appearances, maybe. Like, if somebody were to see me standing together, they might have thought you might have had that much intellectual conversation that you just had right now. They may have thought, oh, this is a meathead who only cares about working out and what's the best whatever. Yeah. Maybe not thinking about stuff beyond the surface, but you are more than that, I would say. And that's part of this, is like, let's see what sort of conversations we can have together and what insights can be shared.
So there's a kind of like a basic principle of like one who knows the way sees it in all things, and what you were talking about.
One, we can say it again slower.
Sorry, yeah, one who knows the way sees it in all things.
Okay.
One who knows the way sees it in all things.
That's from Seven Rings, right? Or Five Rings, or the Book of Five Rings?
Oh, fuck if I know, man. I heard somebody say it somewhere.
I
don't know what the Book of Five Rings is. But, like what you're talking about, your more unilateral form of communication, which is typically associated with autistic behavior, is... well, also this and ties back exactly the same principle as why somebody who sticks to their mental parameters of pattern recognition, which is what you're talking about, a guy with neck tattoos, or mom with like an unhealthy relationship, whatever, that if you know the way broadly, you will see it in everything. Miyamoto Musashi.
Yeah.
That's
I
right.
have his
Okay.
It's incredible.
Anyways, what people appreciate that because it is safe and comfortable, because it's really, I mean, the whole also goes to old dog. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, whatever, because people, like, you know, we're all, especially as children, we're so like looking around so broadly, like trying to figure out what makes sense, what works, like, and everything's wonderful and everything like that. And then, you know, this is just a general principle and like an archetype of any type of story, of like, you know, you endure some type
Way broadly.
Yeah, and oh, kitty cat, don't come near me. I'm gonna sneeze, because I'm just a fragile little boy. Anyways, but the sorry, let me just gather my thoughts for a second. You know, you get hurt by something, or you get excited about something and it disappoints you. Somebody that you trust or look up to betrays you in some form or fashion, and then you're like, oh my gosh, wow, nothing makes sense. And then you try to find something that makes sense, and then you stick to that one thing and don't deviate from that because it's safe. You figured out something, you stay there, and then your worldview, your social circle, your career, your socialization, your communication style, your way of thinking, because the way you talk is the way you think, is all very unilateral, and being unilateral is safe. You don't need to concern yourself with anything outside of that. But then also, of course, it's very limited and becomes stale, because there's no room for progress, growth, adventure, discovery, expansion of anything emotionally or psychologically or whatever. And so the things, like the people that are the most enjoyable, if you talk to them, it's a blend of order and chaos. It's things that are factual that you can narrow down, but also have a blend of mystery, of subtle implications, of humor, whatever. But then, if you take it far the other way, somebody who communicates in a very broad and chaotic sense might be entertaining, but also is like that obnoxious person at the party that was like funny and outlandish, and you can and it's entertaining for like a few minutes, and it's like, okay, you actually have nothing good to say, so please get away from me. Like it was like a Bert
Kreischer.
I was gonna say like snorting a line of coke, be like, wow, this is awesome for 10 minutes, and then it's like, okay, I've had enough of this kind of thing. No offense to all the coke heads out there, but actually this is funny because I don't know why I said that. I was thinking of Sugar Bomb, and then I went to a line of coke.
A coke of line.
A lime and the coconut.
I didn't want a lime with coke.
But that is also just a general personification of unmitigated chaos. Is something that's like big, wonderful, like super stimulating and amazing, and then it's just absolute chaos, absolute anarchy, and not enjoyable, not sustainable. But ultra sustainability is very stale and boring. So like a blend of that in all things, whether it's like a person you're having a relationship with, someone you're just having a conversation with, a job, whatever, it just life in general, like, is best enjoyed when it is a blend of what you can rely on, the order, the stability, and then what you cannot predict, the wonder and mystery and chaos. You had something right there, Derek.
Yeah. Well, I've started writing stuff down as you talk, so I didn't interrupt you.
You're so considerate.
Can listen, and you can get your full thought out, but I can contribute later. When you're talking about being a young kid trying to figure out stuff that's going on, trying to figure out like new stuff in the world, like, and all that jazz. I thought about it. I'm like, well, what's a really easy way? How do people understand new concepts? They have to understand new concepts through the lens of something they understand. And I think that because that is so necessary to understand something new, that's why it's so easy for people to fall into the trap of, oh, this person, I've seen this person before, this is my dad. Oh, I've seen this person before, this is this flawed person. I've seen this person before, this is this type of personality.
I'm taking your last one.
That's fine.
Try to stop me.
I don't think I could.
I'm a tyrant.
Yeah. I'm a sociopath.
I bought him an energy drink earlier, just so you guys...
And you gave me one of yours, so, I mean, it's
yeah. I'm not a tyrant, I swear.
But yeah. My entire thought was that it's easy for somebody who... The natural way of doing something best can easily become a way that you can become flawed, I guess, is what I was trying to get at. Whereas, understanding new concepts, the only way you can do it is by understanding it through the lens of something you already understand. And that can lead to people viewing a person and thinking that person is going to be exactly the same as this other person. And then...
Which is just like a very unfortunate and boring way to live.
Yes.
Because then you're basically like living the same day or same week or same month over and over and over again, like for your whole life.
Or the stereotype of like anybody who breaks up with somebody and they're like, oh, whatever, they're all bitches. Oh, all these men, they're all players and blah, blah, blah.
And then they set themselves up for basically to look for the same things and have the exact same relationship over and over and over again.
So you're already assuming what you assume people are going to be like already.
It's like a Twilight Zone Groundhog Day, but in real life.
Okay.
So, in the words of the Grotto, or the thing from Total Recall, and
I think Grotto.
Rick and Morty season 7, I think. Open your mind.
Open your mind.
Gotta spit a couple times when I get the news in, and I know nobody likes a spitter, but I'm just not very good at swallowing. But that's because I'm the archetypal male figure in this show.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Well, that's the interesting thing is, even with you being the audience or the guest member I brought on specifically to bring the male energy, like you're not stereotype male. You're not like basic male. You're not like
yeah,
these are the man things.
basic.
And, yeah, exactly.
I'm my own person.
Versus like when you were like super duper Christian stuff, and you're like, oh, well, I have to be married to this person because it's God's will, or like a person
Basically
not
living your life to like
that?
fit into like a societal archetype. That's what you're saying.
Well,
Yeah.
shoot, I guess I don't even have to finish the thought. That was the rest of the thought. Okay. But yeah, that's basically the
Always
gist of it.
3 steps ahead of you, Derek.
Yeah, that's my job. That's my job. I'm supposed to predict what you need ahead of time so I can do that part of the job.
For those who don't know in the audience, which I'm assuming would be everybody,
Probably.
I own a chimney business, Yakima Chimney Guys, Yankee Charlie Golf. Derek is the chief chimney technician. Works for me.
I think we covered it enough for the gist of it. Like it'll get it'll get covered probably on a bunch more episodes because that is kind of the overarching idea and theme and premise of what I want the podcast to be. 2 things I did want to bring up though. One thing I find interesting. I don't know if we're gonna talk about this a bunch, but it's relevant because what's his name? RFK is he's the health secretary now or something like that. I think he's somebody in charge of like the food.
Oh
stuff.
yeah, okay.
So my thought was thinking of like health issues and like being concerned about people maybe like eating like bullshit and all that jazz. But also something where I wanted to address like it's really easy for if you want a certain narrative to be true. You're gonna find what is it called? Confirmation bias, I think.
You believe so?
Yeah.
I think there's some other term for it. It's like the logical fallacy. But yeah. Anyways,
the gist was something where I saw some clip of Joe Rogan on his podcast talking about people on food stamps and how like people on food stamps, the biggest thing that people on food stamps buy is soda, which obviously everyone knows soda's not good for you. Duh. Some people have different opinions on that or not.
Hold on, are you saying that like this is a statistical fact?
Yes,
That
I have numbers as well. At least
that
that we're
the
talking about
majority
the
of what people buy with food stamps is soda.
That is the number one thing that is purchased in terms of, and it's like the number is 5% of money that gets spent on food stamps gets spent on soft drinks, and that 5%, if you keep each category of foods, 5% is the highest one. And so he's coming at it like that and saying, well, that's the problem here, blah, blah, blah. They're buying bullshit and whatnot with their food stamps. But then Jamie on the podcast then looked it up and he was like, well, okay, but also if you go on every other household, their food that they purchase the most is also soda. But it was 4% and all that jazz. But I'm like, 4% to 5% doesn't seem like that big of a jump. So it's easy to go in and say like, hey, if you don't have enough money for food, why are you buying non-nutritious foods? And I think that's what he was going after, but I think the final conclusion is just sugar is addictive. Like people, if you want sugar, like you're gonna buy it a lot. Well, and everybody wants sugar. My train of thought is falling off a little bit.
Not me. I'm sweet enough already.
Obviously. But the point was that it's really easy to, if you come in with one specific narrative, to just stay on that even if new facts come up. And I guess the point of this is to talk to different people with different perspectives, to bring up new facts and perspectives and ideas that I would not have had otherwise, that might change or influence my own decisions or viewpoints on things.
I don't want to interrupt you there.
That was done. Yeah.
Okay. That 5% on soda. I mean, there's so many. I don't think there's any one narrative that is the general takeaway from that. Because you have one, me, and anybody else that pays taxes that goes into food stamps, which is supposed to be helping less privileged people get food when they're in a state of financial duress or whatever, so that they can sustain their life and their family and whatnot. But then, of course, that would be doing the opposite whatever, they're going and buying their Dr. Pepper and their Coke and their root beer or whatever, which is going to lead to tooth decay and more inflammation in their body, which is going to bring a whole bunch of other things. Certainly diabetes, one of the biggest medical problems in America, which is going to lead to more need for health care and health care for the poor, which means more taxes taken for Medicaid. So it would be, in a broad sense, the powers that be, the elites, whatever, would be like, yes, poor people, buy more soda so we can take more money from the middle class, so we can misuse that tax revenue to say we're going to use it for medical care, but then also charge like up the yin yang for medical insurance and whatnot. Anyways, but then, and some people that are paying those taxes be like, oh, you shouldn't be able to buy soda, which I think would be fair. But is it really going to solve like a health problem if you just like, no, you can't buy soda with EBT whatsoever? Probably not. Similar to the way of like prohibition did not solve an alcohol problem. It created like a mafia. I don't think it'd be a soda mafia, but imagine that.
Oh my god, yeah, like how the mafia got big because of prohibition, and then all of a sudden we banned sodas, and then the mafia's like, ugh.
I think not only would people who love soda, because people who are addicted to their comforts will fight tooth and nail to justify their comforts and seek out their comforts and say that it's a good reason, or say that it's like it's important, essential, whatever. But then also at the same time, there would be big elite companies that would be like, no, don't make that a policy because that's going to hurt our revenue, kind of thing. Point.
Real fast. Arguably, then the issue then is they wouldn't want you to ban it because it would hurt their revenue. But then I have a feeling that them being concerned about the revenue is the entire reason why there's so much sugar in the product in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what gets people hooked to it.
Yes.
And also,
certainly,
especially high fructose corn syrup. They're like, oh, perfect. Cheap sugar. Now we don't have to spend as much on sugar. We can still have the sugar in our products. And let's make sure every single medical research comes back saying that fats are the problem, not sugars. So we can put as much sugar as we want in everything.
Sure. Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it always comes down to bottom line, all that jazz. But I think the reason I brought this issue up was because it was an issue where people were going into it, at least in this specific argument, it was going into it saying that the food stamps and the spending on garbage is the problem. But then in reality, when you look at everybody, pretty much everybody's spending their money on garbage food. And it's more because just sugar, it's addiction. I mean, we literally have nicotine patches in our mouth right now. We know about addiction being a thing. I don't know exactly where my conclusion was there, but
2 or 3 milligrams.
Yeah, 2 milligrams.
Yeah. Anyways,
because we understand, even though addiction is a thing and we accept some of these addictions, it's better to have less of it if you can, than more of it. Right?
What I would perceive, I mean, because obviously at a certain, RFK Jr. is talking about like stuff on like in a policy level, in a national health level of like it is. I would imagine he's saying it's unethical for the U.S. government to support a program that basically allows poor people to have this like unhealthy, self-destructive products for free that they are like not just willingly but excitedly ingesting and excitedly detrimenting their health, but also that like the middle class is paying for it and the federal bureaucracy is happy to make that a case because then they have more power over the middle class, thus destabilizing the middle class, which is I know a big thing that just from podcasts I've listened to, at least I shouldn't say I know, it is something that RFK and Trump both profess to be a high priority to reestablish the middle class because whatever, statistically, economically, that is what is a barometer of like a stable economy and stable society is like a powerful middle class. I mean, granted, I don't want to pay for people to get fatter and more unhealthy, but people are going to do that, obviously, if by showing that people who are not on food stamps buy just about the same as much soda. But I think the problem is that the people that aren't on food stamps have to buy, indirectly buy the soda for the people that are on food stamps. So that's where I'm like, I don't want to buy other people's soda. I don't like to drink soda, but if I did, then I'd want to buy my own stuff for myself, not buy unhealthy things for other people. Be like if I had to buy nicotine pouches for a bum on the street, be like, no.
Like, similar thought. One thing I thought of is, this is actually something that I had brought up, wanted to mention again as well later. But I saw a podcast, I think it was very recent, with Chris DiStefano, talking to Bert Kreischer, and he brought up the Yuka app, specifically, which is an app on your phone.
Never heard of it.
It's an app on your phone. You can scan the barcode of any food, and it'll give you on a scale of 0 to 100, basically how good it is for you.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, I have heard that.
Yeah.
Seen that.
And the gist was he literally, and then Kreischer comes in and he's like, oh, here, scan this Cheese Whiz. And I'm like, what do you think is going to come back with that, my guy? And it was like a 2.
A 5, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a 2 or like a 4 or something like that. Something terrible. I'm like, well, duh. And then he was mentioning Chris Stefano as an example. He's like, yeah, like for example, spinach is in 100. And I thought of that. And then so yesterday when I went to the store, I'm like, let me get a bag of spinach. Because I actually very much like spinach. I will literally eat spinach like chips if it's good and crispy. I wanted to get a bag of spinach. It was $5 for a bag of spinach.
Oh, crazy.
Yeah, $5 for a bag of spinach. And so I was like, oh, I guess maybe I won't. And that to me,
and that's
then,
like a half pound of spinach or something like that.
Yeah, like a bag like this big.
Yeah, one of those Popeye things.
Yeah. And like I saw that and I'm like, oh, maybe I won't. And that made me think about the whole, generally the concept is healthier food is more expensive. And so a lot of the argument why junk on food stamps is you have a limited amount. So what are you going to spend it on? You're going to spend it on some cheaper shit that might not be as good for you. So my thought is, okay, well, one solution, maybe not the right solution, but one solution would be to actually increase food stamps. So you have more coming in, so you're more incentivized to buy the healthier thing that's maybe more expensive. But then at that point, you then get to the problem of, okay, well, if I give you more money, are you going to spend it on the same amount of food but healthier food, or are you going to spend it on the same junk food but just more of it? Which I don't think there's any way you... Yeah. And I don't think there's any way to guarantee one way or the other. Like, I mean, there's a metaphor, right? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
Yeah, I mean, aside from having like a totalitarian government where like all unhealthy things are illegal, but that's just not feasible.
And then you get to the point of like government like controlling what you can and cannot eat. And like I'm thinking of, because I'm recently watching Chernobyl, so I'm literally watching how government gets so effed up by being what do they call it? Soviet socialist. That's what they keep calling it. They say Soviet socialism. You got to have faith in Soviet socialism because
unmitigated order.
Yeah, and literally they said like blind faith. They were literally saying you have to have faith in Soviet socialism. It'll always pay off. You need to make sure that people only keep their mind on their labors because the state needs to make all decisions for them. Mm-hmm. Which I could totally see how you would get to that point, because we are arguing that effectively the best thing to do would be to regulate what these people can and cannot buy, and basically would be the state making decisions on what you can and cannot eat for them, which has its own problems. And so I don't think there's a clear answer. I don't think there's a right solution. I don't think there's one right answer. But I just want to bring up that contradiction, dichotomy, I don't know the word for it, but like the thing where no matter which path you go, there's going to be some sort of problem. And you kind of just have to accept which problem are you willing to take in order to solve a different one that you're not willing to accept, I guess. I think that's what I'm getting at.
We all have problems.
Yeah. Like for me, I know I would be healthier if I like worked out and lifted weights and stuff. But I also know that I'm way more interested in spending that amount of time honestly watching a show and breaking down the themes of the show, or playing a game that I get satisfaction from winning from, and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's good or bad per se, because I'll pay for it later on in my life with lack of bone density, I guess. But
I don't know, man. I'm sore all the time.
Well, that too.
And it sucks.
Well, that's what we say. Like anything brand new that you're stuff. Like if we were to get off nicotine and quit cold turkey for like 2 weeks, those 2 weeks would suck. But as long as and most people don't do that because those 2 weeks suck so bad they're not willing to push through it to then get to the end. And I'm thinking of like me with video editing, like because I did so much and was willing to spend so much time on it growing up. To me, the amount of time they need to put into it to get past the iffy point of it is good. And if I were to work out, like I've tried many times, like getting in like a healthy shape and whatnot, but anytime I try and do it, I'm not willing to push past the initial, I guess, soreness of it to then whatever. You, in your sense, you are willing to push back past that suckiness up front to get the rewards you know are coming later. And I am willing to push past the suckiness and tediousness of editing a video because I know once the video is complete, I'll get satisfaction from that. And like you could say the same about damn near anything. And I think this is something actually Mom told me once. She said, this is going to sound, I know she didn't mean like this because it's our mom saying it, but she said, embrace the suck. And I'm like, heh. But like in reality, that makes a lot of sense because you got to accept the shittiness up front and push through that to then get to the reward afterwards.
Yes, just don't make any more blowjob references when talking about things our mom said. That's like
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like I know she doesn't mean it in any sexual way because she's not thinking about that at all. But like that's something she used to tell me a lot. Is Derek, you need to embrace the suck, and I'm like, I know what you mean. That's funny in my head because I have a dirty mind, and I know you don't think about it at all. But basically, embrace the hardships of. I mean, it's like that one fucking Christian book we had to read growing up called, not growing up, but like, the Solons are recommending a lot, called Do Hard Things. And I'm like, you can't, I know what you mean, but like, do hard things. Like, my mind immediately goes to one place.
Derek is gay, and he thinks about penises too much.
Obviously. That's why I'm trying to cut back,
Just penises.
Yeah.
Fun little tangent here. I think I talked to you about this, and the reason I'm using 2 milligram pouches now is that I'm doing some little bit of nicotine research, and the particularly talking from a source, Andrew Huberman, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with because he's very popular. That nicotine itself, just kind of like caffeine, or sugar or whatever itself is not an unhealthy thing and is also like a potentially beneficial thing. But the delivery device and the amount is what can be a problem. Of course, with like cigarettes or chewing tobacco or vapes, whatever, they come with other like health complications like mouth cancer, lung cancer, different things, and then also like high doses of nicotine, so it's just like 4 milligrams and above at a time, or vasoconstrictor, and chronically can increase your blood pressure, which of course high blood pressure leads to high blood pressure and vasoconstriction. So anything that raises blood pressure, constricts the blood vessels, can lead more, basically put you in a state that you're more likely to have heart attacks, blood clots, deep vein thrombosis, whatever. But the nicotine that acts on your dopamine receptors and release of acetylcholine helps your brain focus and certain things fire more effectively. So there's research, and it's supporting a theory. And mind you, it's just a theory, but spoken by a Nobel Peace Prize winner, that regular use of a low dose of nicotine, like 1 to 2 milligrams, semi-regularly, can combat Alzheimer's and dementia because it fires parts in the brain that when people get older and they have neurodegeneration, and simply like less projects to focus on, less things to do, so less focus in general in their day-to-day life, can combat the digression of the brain, and the faculties that focus, leading to dementia. So there is potential benefits to that, and also Alex Hormozy, another big guy that is kind of hot in the internet nowadays, uses nicotine regularly when he's he's so gay.
So gay.
Uses nicotine regularly when focusing on whatever projects he's doing. But he chews the Nicorette gum, which is like, I think it's like 1.5 milligrams per piece or something like that. So not to tell anybody to use nicotine or to like whatever, but definitely saying don't smoke, don't vape, don't use chewing tobacco, because those are all carcinogenic and just cancer causing. But that is the delivery device and side effects of the delivery device. The delivery device being whatever puts nicotine into your body, into your bloodstream. But because we don't want carcinogens, we don't want cancer, We don't want high blood pressure or heart problems, whatever. But there is potential in low dose in the proper healthy delivery device benefits to the nicotine in your system. And that's the end of my tangent. Thank you so much for listening.
I was thinking delivery devices. Like, for example, I technically am ADHD or whatever, so I have a prescription for Adderall. But Adderall, as most people obviously know, is a form of an amphetamine, meth, basically. And delivery devices, like, for example, when I take one of my pills, just like a normally as prescribed, it just basically takes me from kind of like my energy being like here to like kind of being like constantly like in the middle kind of coast, where it's just easier to just like similar to how you think of like an ADHD person can drink like a cup of coffee and then take a nap per se, whereas a regular person, you take that stimulant and it goes crazy. And I bet you if I were to give you one of these, you'd be freaking like off the walls for 12 hours.
I'd probably commit crimes.
Yeah.
Violent, aggressive.
And for me,
destructive
if
crimes.
I'm going to use this word, it's not correct, but it's going to be the way to make the metaphor. If I were to take my meth in pill form, as prescribed, it gives me a lot of benefits. I can function more in society.
You could crush 5 of them up and snort them.
Yes, if I were to then snort them, that would be much, much different. I would definitely not get the benefit. I would definitely be going off of chasing a high rather than normalizing myself, for lack of a better word. And where example, if I were to take my meth as a pith, meth as goodness,
That's a pith?
I know. If I were to take my meth,
motherfuckers.
or I'd take my meth as a pill, it benefits me. If I were to get crystal meth and smoke it through the bubble thingamajig,
You're so fucking gay. Oh my god.
if I were to take it like that, obviously
we came from the same womb and the same nutsack. Wow. What the fuck?
Okay, never mind. I think you had a better. See, you're the one who said that we came from the same nutsack. Like, who's really gay here? Like, for example, actually, you had a way better. I'm gonna wait for him to stop barking, because fuck that dog.
Yeah, fuck that dog. Not literally.
Figuratively.
Yeah. Why is he so close to the door?
He smells the cats inside.
Oh god.
Yeah. There we go. You had a better metaphor than what I was going with. Because I was talking about, like, I was trying to make it as what if I take my meth as a pill versus getting crystal meth and, like, whatever. But technically, those are chemically different. You had a better metaphor of, if I were to take this as a pill, it's one thing, versus where if I were to crush up, like, 5 of them and snort them, it's a different thing. Or even if I were to take more than prescribed, because I've done that before and, like, stayed up for, like, 48 hours straight. But I just, like, keep taking those pills. And that's taking it above my prescription more than I need, and then that's when I get the abuse sense, the chasing the high sense, the part where it's not giving me benefits anymore, per se.
Remember the firefighter I was telling you about yesterday? Remember when I was a resident at KBFR? He's like, I just heard him say at one point in time, yeah, whatever he was talking about, but like, life is best when everything is in moderation. Mm-hmm. Except for sex. Sex as much as possible. Yes.
Nice. Well, you can become addicted to just about anything, right?
Yeah, but...
Oh, one other thing I was going to bring up when you were talking about...
As much as possible.
When you were talking...
I don't know whatever. Anyways.
Gotta get that roof and just bust through that
ceiling.
Get the next series. Bust through it. Because you keep busting through ceilings.
That was the best clip right there. Bust through that fucking ceiling. Sex as much as possible.
With your whole fist.
Because this is literally, enlarged to show texture. No, that's like life size right there. No, I'm kidding. I'm very...
Wait, life size?
Very Caucasian. Alright, anyways, moving on.
Wait, the last thing I was going to say, when you're mentioning nicotine, 2 milligrams, beneficial, more than that, vasoconstricting, all that jazz.
Yes.
I also brought this up with you yesterday, but it's literally the same as the concept of people who are like, I need to drink a glass of wine with dinner to, like, have some, like, heart benefits and whatnot. Like, yes, that will help benefit you in terms of loosening up your bloodstream, making things flow better, all that jazz. But that could very easily become, well, if 1 glass of wine at dinner is good for you, then 5 is great for you. And in the sense of anything addictive, nicotine, alcohol, whatever, it's super easy to, even if you get a little taste, to just want more. And I know with me specifically, like, I don't want to say I can't, but effectively I can't just have 1 beer. Like, if I drink a little bit of alcohol and start to feel that effects, like, the only thing that will stop me is, like, fucking every alcohol store being closed, or it's past 2 o'clock and I can't go get more.
Blacking out,
Um,
throwing up on Gabe's bathroom floor,
Yeah.
having me carry you down the stairs because you can't even function.
with me, like, my alcohol use, I mean, literally got me in legal trouble, like, honestly, like, right now. Like, it's to such where it is a problem. Like, and I can't really drink without it becoming a problem, per se. And I know that about myself. And that's what I'm saying, like, anything that's, and even nicotine. Honestly, I think nicotine even more. Like, nicotine's harder for me to quit than alcohol, honestly. But anything that, all that was to say that I want to both acknowledge the fact that some things have benefits, and some things you definitely do have to be very careful with because the benefit could very easily become a detriment by overdoing it. Even working out, like, obviously working out's good for you, but if you were to, like, work out every freaking day and break down your bodies too badly
Yes.
or do it in a bad way.
Rhabdomyolysis,
Yeah.
tendon tears, tendonitis, all sorts of things.
Rhabdomyolysis. Is that the thing where your muscles start to break down so much that your, like, pee becomes a little red?
It's just just a medical term for like extreme soreness, like more than your body can compensate for. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. It's just you're super fucking sore for a really long time where you can't really function.
Oh, another example.
It's happened a couple times. It's not nice.
Like sugar. Like, your brain literally needs carbohydrates, and that's basically sugar, in order to run. So your body does need sugar.
Glucose.
But, like, and because of that, your body releases dopamine when it gets sugar because it's like a thank you, please, we need this. But then because of that,
Thank you. Come again.
yes, and because of that, and the society we live in nowadays, it's just so easy to then just keep getting more and more sugar type thing. Whereas, well, way back in the day, food is very scarce, and so your body literally needs it incentivized to tell yourself to remember to keep eating because your body still needs that fuel, and especially your brain, which needs carbohydrates, sugars, in order to function. Where you do need this to live, but it's also so easy to overdo it. Like, basically, damn near everything's so easy to overdo, really. Anything that's good, like, that gives you a reward.
Yep. What else do we have?
There was one other thing I want to bring up.
We're not like super seriously structured here, but we'll get better. I swear.
That's the point. Like,
We'll
literally,
get
we got
better.
some structure.
That's what life's all about. Progress, not about the destination,
1%?
but the journey. 1%, motherfuckers. James Clear? Is that what it is?
I don't know. I knew you say a
Habits.
lot. I want to say 1% type shit.
1% type shit. 1% better. A little bit at a time. No, but the whole happiness comes from progress, not necessarily from accomplishment. Because accomplishment always leaves like a void.
Yeah.
Anyways.
That reminds me,
Road to the show.
Yeah, Road to the Show. That's what I was going to bring up. There's a game mode in MLB The Show called Road to the Show where you...
Gay mode.
game mode. Maybe it's a little gay. It's all guys, right? And you can pick his body type, so... It's goddamn. Okay, the point was, in Road to the Show, you basically you create a baseball player, and it's a role-playing game, effectively, at least the mode of making a baseball player to build into the majors, make him into a real player. I would always make pitchers, because I like pitchers, and I would make it, and every single time I would be in AA, then I would advance to AAA, and I knew exactly what I was doing. I'd be like so zoned in, I'd be playing that game for like 4 or 5 hours. Then I'd make it to the majors, and then by the time I make it to the majors, that's when you can add more pitches. And by the time I've made it to the majors, I've added all the pitchers, and I finally
Did
got...
you say 4 or 5 hours?
Yeah, probably.
That's crazy. I
Easily.
could not focus on a video game that long.
The reward. Because I was thinking, the progress.
Huh.
But then the second I get to the majors, and I have all the pitches I want, almost every single time, I'll stop playing and create a new one.
Huh.
And that was
Okay,
the point of, like, the progress is more
Yes.
interesting. I mean, what is it? The journey of the destination. Everyone knows that idea. But it is true. That was me saying a real-life metaphor in my brain of something that totally rings true to the whole progress is better than...
Or like when a guy is
succeeding.
like pursuing a girl and she's like playing hard to get and whatnot, and she doesn't want to be like... She's like, obviously, whatever, been hurt before, doesn't want to get like the complications of like a relationship or like opening up to somebody because when you're vulnerable you can be hurt, whatever. And the guy that like makes the guy more interesting, which is why like... excuse me, to a guy that makes a girl more interesting, but also to a girl that makes a guy more interesting. But I don't pursue guys. So let's just speak from...
I do. As we already established. Jokes.
Jokes. Anyways, but then once the guy has the girl, she's let down her guard and just like, oh my gosh, okay, I'm gonna be your girlfriend. He's like reached that degree of like accomplishment, or as you know, the misogynist accusers say, conquest. And then he's like, oh, you know what? There's like, I made it, and now it's not so interesting anymore. Same thing where like when a guy like busts his nut, it's like, okay, cool, I'm good. I'm done with this. And like the woman is like less interesting, generally, biologically even. Anyways, some people, or I've heard this recently, was that so like that's a biological mechanism so that the semen like sits inside longer instead of like keep on thrusting and potentially like scooping it out or whatever, so that that's more likely for them to get pregnant as like a biological like evolutionary like reproductive
like
mechanism.
That one type of monkey that's like their dick is designed to intentionally scoop out the semen of the last guy who was in here so he can put his in there.
That's crazy. I mean, that would have to be a really high rapidity. Man, those monkeys are whores.
Yeah, no, I think they're called bonobos. And those are like intentionally like that specific monkey is known for just
Bonobos.
one female to 5 guys, and we're all just competing to
Burgers
see who
and
gets to
fries.
produce.
Five Guys burgers and fries. Bananas and
Though I did hear that on the Joe
Papaya.
Rogan podcast, so maybe true, maybe not. Who knows?
fuck if I know. They have smarter people on there. No, nothing against your podcast and your the intelligence of your guests, but you know,
I know. I mean, my first guess kind of sucks, but we'll see.
not like that.
Oh, excuse me. My first guess is kind of dumb, but we'll see. There we
Yeah,
go. Is that
okay,
bad?
that's
Yeah,
alright.
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
gay.
Yeah, not gay.
I think I'm not. I'm pretty sure.
I know I'm not actually, but the reason I know is kind of gay.
Anyways, so it looks like you have some other topic for us there.
Yeah. The last thing I was gonna bring up. So when I started trying to figure out like what the angle and like how I wanted to record this and all that jazz, you made a point that like, oh, the camera's actually really good, and the camera is literally just an iPhone, man. It's just the newest iPhone, the 16 Pro Max. Previously, I had the 11 Pro Max. Because my philosophy, at least with iPhones, is buy the newest one, buy the best one, buy the most expensive one right there. So it'll last you a while, and it's worked, because I bought the 11, it lasted me 5 years. I have a feeling the 16 is probably going to also last me
A while.
the 11 Pro Max, because I want the biggest one. Also, the battery's insane, but never mind. We'll talk about phones later. But this is all I want to show you is, like, it is a really good camera, like, because it has bokeh. Like, that's me, the subject, in focus. And then slightly more out of focus, and then the further away it gets from the camera,
The less
it
focused
gets,
it is.
yeah. And that's called...
Whoa! What if we could get a sponsorship from Apple?
That'd be insane. That'd be insane.
Bro, and then we'll be recording the next episode from our like mansion in Bali or something.
In
something,
Bali.
something really cool like that.
But also look at this, like, the 7-Up's kind of focused, but then the reflection of the 7-Up through my glasses.
Oh, that's dope!
is
Wow.
actually a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe you could have that on like a little side clip of in the video when you do this post editing, just that picture like of you and like a screen recording of you zooming in on the different focuses.
Oh, I wish I'd thought of that. I could have been screen recording right now.
Well, you just put it in post. That's like your thing, isn't
Oh,
it?
I know, but it would have been way easier if I'd just been recording at this, and I wouldn't have to do any zoom in, edit it in post.
Oh yeah, because you have to have the zooming in when reference or like in
Oh, you know what?
conjunction
In
with
that
the
case,
audio.
let me just do this right now because I don't want to put more edit.
Okay,
work
yeah,
for
yeah.
myself.
Okay, sure. Is this combined? To the...
No. This is recording video to the phone from the phone's camera and audio to the phone from this mic.
Okay, I don't know if
this
that's
is-
connected with the cloud. I don't know like shit about fuck when it comes to like phones and recording and videos and stuff. I just know shit about chimneys and fucking
Yeah, but
sex as much as possible.
That's why you need to have conversations with different people, because lots of people know stuff that you don't know about and vice versa. But for the sake of me putting this in post real fast, let me just show me, the subject, obviously very in focus.
Yeah.
Stuff that's slightly more in the background, less so, and the further back it gets, the more out of focus it gets. And that is called bokeh.
Bokeh.
Yeah, bokeh effect. That's what makes things look quote-unquote professional. But that's part of the nice thing about this iPhone is the sensor on it is much larger in the newer iPhones.
Excuse
So
me.
it can get more light and more information, so it can more easily figure out what's further away and what's not. and then be able to do this bokeh without having to, oh my god, I literally brought this out, here we go, without having to do what you used to have to do with cameras, where you do need a specific lens to make the bokeh effective. This is a 50 millimeter lens that I specifically got because it could have a very shallow depth of field.
Peter Parker, Spider-Man.
And with iPhones and with phone cameras in general, they're actually more likely to do that bokeh effect because their f-stop in the sensor on it has to be more open. Their lens basically has, that's not the right word, but
for all
the
you
eyeball.
camera nerds out there.
Okay, here's a better way. Say it's an eye. In order for the eye of the camera to get more, to see more, it has to open more to allow more light in because it doesn't have all this extra stuff to it that allows the light in more naturally. So phone cameras have to be more open in order to get more light, and because of that, you're getting more of a shallow depth of field for the most part. And a lot of times it looks kind of cheap because it's not getting that information, but because of this thing is so big, effectively it's like having your corneas in your eyes are much now bigger. So now it can absorb more information, more light in general, on top of the retina being more open, and therefore getting more information. And that's why you can get this type of effect without having to get a camera like this. And I don't use this camera because it's actually kind of an old camera and kind of sucks compared to even now modern phones. But that's just a quick camera lesson for you, and that's why this phone can do what it can do.
I feel properly educated.
Yes.
Well, anything else?
Last thing I was going to bring up
Post.
was just one topic real quick to come up with is women in your life asking stupid questions, and stupid questions in general. I will let you say your piece, but I want to say my piece real fast first.
Go for it.
The only reason this was in the front of my mind is because, and maybe not even a stupid question, maybe stupid statements, is I realized the best thing to do when your girlfriend asks something completely ridiculous or says something ridiculous, to not respond how you want to respond. The best thing to do is like kind of just be silent and be like, okay, yeah, and move on, versus what I'm inclined to want to say, which is how I would say if it was like, say, I was an employer with an employee who came to me and asked a stupid question. I'd be like, well, yeah, of course you do that, blah, blah, blah. Like, the example was, earlier today, this morning, like, I'm going to take a shower. And it was a little bit colder outside, so my girlfriend's like, oh, okay, well, make sure to test the water, let it run for a little bit to get warm before you get in the shower. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, duh. I've done that every single time I've ever showered, ever. Like, what a stupid thing to say out the blue. But to say that would be insulting, because it's somebody saying something from the perspective of, let me help you out, and then it's me from the perspective of, that's a stupid thing to even say, because of course I'm going to do that. And then I went from and basically the energy goes from something positive of, let me help you out and give you advice, to me criticizing somebody for saying something that's obvious, which doesn't help or benefit anybody, really, at the end of the day. And then you had an interesting thought earlier about where stupid questions come from.
Well, what you said right there was not a stupid question. That was kind of a...
Stupid questions, stupid thoughts. It's kind of
a banal statement of, like... Actually, my girlfriend did the same thing. Right before we were leaving the gym last night, I think it was. And I got in the car and... jumped inside, put my seatbelt on. The car was already running because I turned it on, ran to grab something, came back, and literally was putting in drive with one hand and reaching for the door with the other hand. And she's like, "Oh, close the door," and I'm like, "Okay, make sure to breathe." Like, which I think that is a rather. Well, there's a couple different things there. One, I think people say things like that. I think a more masculine viewpoint of saying things like that, generally speaking, and this, I'm going to say both of these are from an unhealthy standpoint of masculinity and femininity. The unhealthy standpoint of a masculine person who's like, oh, make sure to do that, is trying to like point out, like, hey, I know something that you don't know. I know how to handle this situation better than you. And just like a bully who picks on somebody because they feel bad, and it'll making somebody else look bad is going to make themselves look and feel better in this arbitrary, like, fight for superiority. it's just akin to like bullying somebody, but in a way that's like a virtue signaling bullying in a comic way to make themselves look like the superior being in that, or not superior being. But I guess so.
Kind of,
The terminology is not necessary, but you get the point. In that situation, and try to make the other person, because then if they're like, well, duh, I was gonna do that, and you're like, it didn't look like it, and they have no evidence to say that like that was already on my mind, so then they look kind of dumb or whatever, even though it's just different. Which is also, and then on the other hand, from a feminine viewpoint, generally is from a standpoint of anxiety. Because women generally have a higher trait of neuroticism, which is just a proclivity towards negative emotion, which is a really, really important in child raising, particularly infants, because you have to be very, very prone to sense negative emotion for like very fragile, neonates, infants, toddlers, whatever. And it allows people to be really good parents for extremely dependent infants. Super, 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 super important, because if that wasn't the case, then most infants would die and human race would not be what it is. So I'm not saying it's a negative thing. However, it's just in Rambo, First Blood Part 1. You can't turn it off! Or whatever. The same thing when a female takes their neurotic traits of like anxiety, basically. And again, I know that sounds negative, but it's not. It just is the one of basically being a proclivity of being hypersensitive to negative emotion, because they don't want negative emotion around them because they feel like they're not. Feel like they're failing the people they care about if they have negative emotion. I'm not saying this generally, just in like some experiences.
Okay, real quick, would you think like a simple way of saying this would be, the women anxiety trait is very much like, I'm always paying attention to what could go wrong, and a man's, I guess maybe decision trait would be, I'm simply just looking at what things are going well and how we can make it better.
Sure, that would be the healthy way. Yeah, but it would be kind of like that is this right there, or like make sure you close the door before you start driving, or make sure you test the water before you get in the shower. Both are like completely banal things that are not even worth saying, but coming from a state of anxiety of more or less a female with a biological mechanism to tend to infants, treating their man, the grown person that has decades of experience before their lives even conjoined, of just being a normal person and doing normal things, treating them like an infant, just naturally. And it's not like a malevolent thing.
Completely neutral.
Yeah, not a malevolent thing where like the woman is like, oh, you're so stupid and I need to remind you how much you need me. Maybe if you're a psychotoxic bitch,
Yep.
Take that into account for your own behaviors. But also if you're a guy, you're a girl, and then you have things in your head going from day to day that you want to comment on what people are doing, maybe consider, hey, is this something they'll probably figure out on their own? Or do I need to take control in this situation? Because taking control in a situation, like saying, hey, you need to do this banal thing, this mundane thing, that more than likely, if you, is basically communicating to the other person, I don't trust your level of competency to handle this mundane task, this banal thing, and I feel the need to interject because you cannot you don't have what it takes to stand up for yourself to handle the situation, whatever. And that is really the underlying message that you're communicating. And if you're doing that on purpose, if you can honestly say you're doing that on purpose, it's a passive aggressive kind of dark psychology way of like undermining somebody's sense of self-worth and self-confidence. Don't do that. And more than likely, you're a normal person that's relatively healthy, and you're just trying to care for the people that you care about. But if it causes conflict, consider that might be the message you are accidentally sending. You might be accidentally sending the message of like, I need to take control of this scenario because I don't trust you. And maybe that's coming from just a general sense of anxiety and insecurity from something that happened in the past, because that's how trauma has passed along and sustains and maintains, or excuse me, modulates your behavior. You have some type of situation where things go wrong, you have anxiety and trauma from that, and now you feel like feel like you need to take control in situations because you don't want to have that same level of negativity that you had in that one particular situation. But you also more don't want to have negativity and any type of condescension toward the people that you love the most. So I'm trying to remember what I said. I was like, hey, babe, I've been driving for a long time.
Just watch me back up, and you will immediately never have doubt in my driving abilities.
Yeah, I've been driving for a long time, and I know that you need to close the door before you drive away. Not necessarily that you need to, because actually if I drive away, the door will close on its own. So I'm like, well, what are you actually concerned about? She's like, that just gives me a lot of anxiety. But like, okay, what are you anxious about? And she's like, I don't know, it just stresses me out. I'm like,
So
okay,
something that
what do you worried that might happen in that situation? Or like, what kind of negativity, or like, what kind of negative outcome are you trying to prevent by doing that? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, okay, so I hear you. And she's like, I don't know, I just care about your safety. I'm like, okay, how do you feel like my safety was compromised in that situation? She's like, I don't know, just care about your safety. So then it's and that, I know that's coming from a state of like trauma and anxiety. So I'm like, hey, I like, that's fine, I care about you, I know you care about me, but that is communicating a condescending level of incompetence towards me, which I know is not what you mean, but that's how you would take that. That's how you would like tend to infants, which of course I'm not.
Man.
Anyways, I kind of feel like I'm beating a dead horse there.
Oh yeah. So it definitely, my assumption is when something you said where the anxiety is something you can't turn off, and so in her mind, as it's being something that she doesn't like dealing with, that she can't turn off, that has its benefits, she's literally just on the constantly on alert to see what things around me can I eliminate to make me not anxious about those things. And I think in that instance, even if she could have easily said nothing, and then 2 seconds later you would shut the door and her anxiety would have been gone.
Less than 2 seconds, because my hand was on
I
the
know.
drive
Yeah, but,
door.
Yeah, literally, if she had paused for even a couple more seconds and whatever, it would have been resolved naturally. But literally, it triggered so quickly in her brain that she then just immediately reacted. And I'm seeing that to how I used to be before I got medicated for my autism, because because a sound or something would happen, and I would just immediately react to it without even thinking.
My girlfriend.
Like,
Got it. Ambien.
You need to give her some of that vitamin C, man. But
okay.
Sorry. I think me vitamin D or vitamin C, man. I don't know which to go with, which is funny.
She gets plenty.
Both. Yes.
Plenty.
You both it.
Fuck.
Fuck. No. That was to say, yeah. So previously, something would happen, a stimulus, an outside whatever, and I would just react. And then once I got on risperidone, after a while, it literally reprogrammed my brain. So an outside stimulus would happen, the emotion would happen, the fight or flight, whatever. But instead of going immediately to the action part of my brain, it went to the processing part of my brain first, and then to the action part. So I actually had a couple seconds to think, or even like a little bit to think, like, oh, this is happening, I'm internally reacting this way. Do I want to react that way? Instead of just like, a thing would happen, the emotion takes over, and then just immediately act. Mm-hmm. Which, in a sense, that's a good
mindfulness.
Thing. Yeah, that's
mindfulness.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. It's a good thing because typically acting immediately to something, especially if it's a danger or a threat, obviously is going to save your ass. Mm-hmm. And then obviously just nowadays people can see dangers and threats in the tiniest little things. Maybe they react to it, maybe they don't. The entire point of this was to say that once I got medicated, I could then actually have that extra little pause of a moment to think before I acted. And honestly, it's literally saved me jobs. It's literally saved me phones. It saved me... I know, yeah. Like, I haven't broken a phone in like 4 or 5 years at this point, which is great for me. Or anything type of thing. Like, But basically, all I'm getting at is, in her, since she is 19, she probably hasn't had enough life experience to then be like, let me pause, wait a couple seconds, and then maybe assess or whatever. It's just, especially if it's a trauma or whatever, it's immediately like, oh, a threat, whatever. And also, what's a positive thing? She sees threat. She then doesn't think I need to run away. She thinks, let's fix it real fast. Which that's also once again a positive thing. But in that specific instance, it was an unhealthy expression of a positive element, a positive intention, or positive whatever. I think
You just need to touch back to that one. Maybe I saw this wrong out of my peripherals, but it looked like you were like, she's 19.
Oh yikes! No.
I'm sure that was just. I'm sure that was a misperception from my
I would
peripherals,
never
but
do
I was
that unless it was a 19-year-old boy.
like- or she was chubby.
Let's not go there. That's for later.
This guy.
I don't need to
This guy.
blush right now on camera.
Weird. Well, I shouldn't say weird taste, not trying to. Not slut shame, whatever.
Yeah.
Not trying to shame me for your preferences, but.
Well, that's another thing. You said weird, and anybody can see that in a negative sense of, oh, you're saying weird, so that's a negative. But
That's true.
I see weird as not necessarily a bad thing.
Unusual and to me, and not something that I
Can I complete my thought?
relate to. No! Yeah, go
Jeez.
ahead.
Fuck, what was I even saying? Oh yeah, weird. Like, you say weird, and some people, especially if you don't know me or whatever, who might say you're weird, might mean it in a negative sense. I hear weird not in a negative sense, here in a relatively neutral sense, sometimes a positive sense. And then I think even then the viewing of the negative label as actually a good thing and something to own can be good, but also can be an unhealthy thing if you take it as far as, say, our brother, who, if you were to say you're a little weirdo or a little strange guy, he's like, yeah, that's a badge of honor. Let my freak flag fly. Which
Freak
there's a
flag
good healthy
Freak
expression.
flag fly.
Yeah, freak flag fly. I like alliterations. There's a good sense to let my freak flag fly, be myself, be my true genuine self. But what I've realized is, in the sense of our brother, he's taking it to the extreme of, I need to always be myself in every
We have
situation.
a little brother.
Yeah. I need to be my own self in every expression of it all the time. Whereas in my opinion, at least to me and how I live and how I view is the better way of taking it is, I need to be the truest version of myself that is appropriate for the environment I'm in at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And I chose every single one. I've worked on that phrase, and I've chose every word of that phrase to have the exact meaning I mean it to have. You need to be the truest version of yourself that is appropriate for the environment you're in.
So there's a. I thought about this when you first started talking about stupid questions. Before we started,
You also don't have an iPad to type down your thoughts,
we
so
also
you can not think about it afterwards.
Yes. So we talked about stupid questions before we started recording, and we were like, "Well, a stupid question, the label of a stupid question can mean a number of things." But one thing we're talking, for instance, another thing that first I thought about is like my girlfriend all the time, particularly right when I'm about to fall asleep, is like, hey, before you go to sleep, I have a maybe stupid question for you. And I'm like, yeah, what is it? Yeah, no, that's not stupid at all, obviously. Anyways, but what I think some people might be afraid of is, or a stupid question could be a question that you might think makes you look stupid. But that goes into what you're saying, be the most authentic version of yourself that's appropriate for the situation. There's a spot in the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus talks about, don't give to dogs what is sacred and don't throw your pearls to pigs, because if you do, they'll trample them under their feet and then turn and tear you to pieces. And what I mean by that in like this a social setting, or like having your questions, because you come to somebody with some question or concern or whatever that's like genuine, and the more genuine you are with somebody, the more opportunity you give them to hurt you, because if you offer your true self forward, then that is the authentic you that could be assaulted upon, as opposed to what a lot of people do because of the natural like hurts and disappointments and like betrayals that we have in life. They offer some type of twisted version of themselves, or some type of masked or just unauthentic. It's just a pure like defense mechanism, which is completely understandable. So the stupid questions. So you ask your boss or whatever a stupid question, and he's an asshole to you. Yeah, and I'm like, shut the fuck up! You're so fucking stupid, Derek! Why did I even hire you?
Or it's more like this, and then you're like, Derek, why would we blah blah blah? And I'm like, oh geez, oh no, there's an obvious answer to this that I'm just totally missing.
Yeah. So that would be an opportunity, or whatever. You basically being an authentic version of yourself in a place where, if you were to truly consider it, would not be appreciated and treasured with the care that you deserve, which would be throwing your pearls to pigs or giving to dogs what is sacred. So potentially before you offer a stupid question, by definition, in this case, just when how like Webster or like the dictionary has like 1, 2, 3, 4 different definitions for it. So in this definition, the C category of the stupid questions is going to be a question that might make you feel stupid asking, or might make you look stupid to other people. Consider is, if this is an authentic question, a genuine question, am I offering this genuine part of myself, this genuine inquiry, to somebody that I can trust will actually appreciate who I am and where this is coming from, or am I potentially putting myself at risk of them turning and tearing me to, or like trampling that under their feet and turning and tearing me to pieces? Which, if that's the case, then just don't, because you deserve better than that. And save it for someone or some setting that will give you the respect that you deserve, and see who you are, see who you are and treasure who you are.
Okay, so I think the fear is, like, if you're going to expressing your authentic self to somebody per se, or like you're bearing your soul, so to speak, you're worried about, is this going to be me bearing my soul to this person and they're going to take it as this person sees me as real and they want to connect with me? Or is it going to be, I'm bearing my soul to this person and they're going to, now that they know about me, now they know the ammunition that they can use to tear me down?
Which is what makes the discontentment or misalignment in relationships generally stems to that. Is that if I'm my true self, some point in time, this person might ridicule me for being my true self, so I better not be genuinely authentic about what I long for, or what I need, or what I want, or what I'm afraid of, or whatever, because that's going to put me in a place to hurt them. Then they're going to sense that you're holding back and going to feel resentful towards that, but don't really know how to articulate that, because your own emotions, let alone somebody else's emotions, are really freaking difficult to understand. And then that's just going to be a rift in the relationship in between. But going back to potentially offering to dogs what is sacred, and giving your pearls to pigs, it is very, very foolish to ridicule a dog for being a dog. So if you're like, those assholes at work just don't appreciate me, or whatever, my stupid fucking stepdad is just a dickhead, and like this, whatever. Just compartmentalize that and be like,
don't
hey,
call me Kirk, call me Dad.
Too much.
I know,
I'm just kidding.
I might cut that part.
Anyways, it's a certain part of like being your true self in direct proportion, which is appropriate for the setting. More or less understand who will treasure you and who will not, but don't be mad and resentful towards a dog for being a dog, or a pig for being a pig. Fuck the police, coming straight from the underground. But because nobody's life is benefited by more anger and resentment towards people. It's just, hey, they're not somebody I can trust with my true self, so I'm gonna protect myself, and I'm gonna respect myself by protecting myself and not letting a certain part of me out around these people that when I have to be around them, because they don't deserve it. Because they don't deserve your true self. And so you need to treat yourself as somebody who deserves respect. And not hope that that pigs will be good people, or dogs will be good people. But decide who's worth
your effort,
who's worth your true self, and who will treasure your true self, and only give it to them. And everybody else doesn't deserve.
They can get a part of you.
They don't deserve, so they won't get your true self. That's it.
But not just saying that with these people that you won't give your true self to. Not just saying you're like being fake. in the moment. You're just only being true to maybe 10% of yourself.
Be true to yourself.
The truest version of yourself that is appropriate.
Treat yourself as somebody worthy of respect, and if somebody won't give you that respect, fuck them. Just do what you have to do.
Am I saying appropriate? The truest version of yourself that is appropriate for the environment. That both is in the sense of appropriate in terms of not trying to offend, and also in terms of not trying to put yourself out too much. Also in terms of don't want to put too much energy forward, or maybe you're putting forth your business self, not saying you're trying to not offend, but you're trying to impress. Like, appropriate is like every explanation of the word, not just, hey, don't be offensive type of thing. But also, don't put yourself out too much, don't put too much energy yourself out, don't belittle yourself, don't put your pearls to swine, essentially. Give your pearls to somebody nice, but like, you can still wear your pearls, just don't give them to the pigs.
Yeah, I think we circled around that properly.
And the final thing I want to say to close out,
Final thing?
because I
thought we had 3 final things so far.
I know, but this is based on something you said earlier, that quite a while ago, actually, now realizing, but that's why I wrote it down. I think it was something with, like, you're talking about anxiety, and it can be a good thing, a positive thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But that goes back to the entire gist and the theme and the premise and the idea of why I wanted to do this entire podcast, is that we are saying that even if we talk about something negative, we're not necessarily saying that specific thing is negative. We're saying it's typically a negative expression of a positive thing, and probably even vice versa. You can have a positive expression of a negative thing, like nicotine, per se. 2 milligrams of nicotine is a positive expression of an addictive habit that could literally cause your blood vessels to constrict too much and stuff like that. And that's why in this thing we're trying to get across that there's 2 sides to every story. Every story you're looking at, there's 2 sides. I mean, 2 sides, obviously it's more than 2, but basically to get to the point that there's more to the story than you think. There's more to the guy at Fred Meyer that I saw with a neck tattoo, completely covered neck tattoo, is the guy who actually considered me and saved my ass from losing $80 and losing a card and causing all kinds of other problems. He didn't know me and didn't anything. But if I were to see him normally, I would probably have a negative association with him. Type thing. And even the anxiety thing of, hey, I want to make sure, blah, blah, blah. And it could be, I'm trying to prove to you I'm better than you, but it could also be, I'm just looking out for you. And even I'm just looking out for you can still be a negative expression. And I'm trying to be better than you can also still be a positive expression as well. And so that is, to summarize, the gist of everything I want to get across with this podcast, is to bring up ideas that maybe you or I or anybody might not have thought about before, or to look at something from a different light, look at something from a different perspective, and just accept that anything good can be bad, anything bad can be good, and vice versa. And there's positive and healthy, or there's healthy and unhealthy expressions of just about any type of masculine or feminine energy.
So if you're bored as fuck because your life is lame, let us know what you think in the comments.
Or hey, maybe your life is good, and
maybe your life is really
maybe
great.
You're just like bored in the moment, you know?
Yeah. Well, whatever. Positive, negative. It's all a balance.
Balance.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Also, throw some shit in there if you want us to, like, hey, could you talk about what you think about, I don't know, in-laws or foreign relations with the Chinese government, because we're pros on that.
Oh, yeah. Once we start talking politics.
Or if you want to talk about, the imbalance of neutrons and electrons and free radicals, we could discuss that too, because we're smart as fuck, yo. Wicked smart.
Wicked smart.
Yeah, but, I don't know, is that it? You're the boss here.
Yep, that's all we got for today.
Hey, balance. Off camera, I'm the boss. On camera, he's the boss. Fuck yeah.
Well,
Hellfire Club, Stranger Things. Eddie, you're the
let's
man.
end like that. You ready? Hellfire Club.